Whether you're going to be swimming in the pool or out in the open water, there are a few key skills that can help make that swim experience more efficient, a whole lot easier, and let's face it, much more enjoyable at the same time. So in today's video, I'm going to take a tour through some of our previous videos to help pinpoint those skills that you need to bear in mind so that you can make the most out of your next swim, whether it's happening indoors or out. Right, so I'll get started with what I think is one of the most useful skills when we're in the pool, and that is what we call here in the UK the tumble turn, or perhaps elsewhere in the world you hear them referred to as the flip turn. But either way, swimming laps or lengths in the swimming pool without using one of these turns means that when you hit the end of the wall, you're potentially going to be losing all of that precious momentum that you've been building up over the course of the length. So, to explain the mechanics of how to initiate one of these turns, here's Mark with a step-by-step guide.
For this, we're going to lie horizontal in the water, or as best as you can. To start the flip movement, just pull forwards ever so slightly to give yourself a little momentum. Then draw your nose and chin towards your chest, and by doing this, your head will actually direct your body and begin that rotation. It's at this point that you should bring your knees into your chest as tight as possible. By being in this compact position, it will make the flip a lot easier and a lot quicker. Once you're at that point and you're feeling more brave, you can gradually begin moving closer to the wall. You still don't need to touch the wall, but it's a great way to increase your spatial awareness and confidence of the skill.
As a rough guide, when you're coming into the wall and your head passes the T on the bottom of the pool, you've got 1 or 2 strokes before you have to initiate that flip turn. Obviously, it does vary depending on your stroke length, the speed that you're coming into the wall, and some pools can be a little bit different, so it's important you practice it to dial it in. That's where the handy T marker comes in. Most swimming pools will have them. It's that T shape you can see on the bottom of the floor of the swimming pool as you're approaching the wall.
Okay, now moving on to a trusty piece of equipment that can help make any visit to the pool more useful, in my opinion at least, and that is the pool buoy. Now you might be thinking, isn't that a drill? Well, yes it is, but it's a lot more than that as far as I'm concerned, because swimming with a pool buoy not only helps you master swimming without using your legs, but also really helps improve your body position in the water. And the pool buoy also gives a variety to your swimming sessions, but it can also help your stroke by eliminating dead spots and give us a strength workout as well, as Mark and I touched on here.
Using a pool buoy might sound simple enough, just don't kick your legs, right? Well, you would be surprised. Razor kicks all the time. But obviously that is not the aim. We want to really keep our legs still and isolate the arms. But you can be excused if you are starting out with pool work. You want to try and build that strength up so you can kick a little bit, fluff your legs.
Yeah, and there really is no shame if you find it really pretty difficult. And if that is you, then you can opt for something like a larger pool buoy that a lot of the brands offer as one of their options. Or actually, something that my coach used to give me is the option of a second pool buoy. You strap them together with a band or something, and that just gives you a lot more added buoyancy when you're swimming.
Yeah, it can take people years to get the hang of, can't it, Fraser?
Yeah. Still working on that.
But yeah, as we've mentioned, the idea is to really isolate the arms and, if possible, literally keep your ankles dead together. So they're locked together, you're not moving them at all. But again, like I say, a tiny bit of movement is okay.
Yep, and so this is effectively one of the big benefits of swimming with the pool buoy, because now, for any given speed that we're swimming at, you're going to have to work a lot harder because obviously we don't have our kick to aid us. And that gives us a lot of extra arm strength, and that's a real benefit to swimming with the pool buoy. And another benefit too is also the fact that we're constantly swimming with our arms with no kick. We can really work on the dead spots that might be present in our stroke.
So if you are relatively new to pool work, then you may want to start with fairly short reps. That way you can focus on the quality of each rep with a short break to recover and reset. A simple example would be something like 12 by 25 meters with a 20-second recovery between each. You can then build from this to something like 8 by 50 meters and then to 4 by 100 meters, for example.
Now when you're down at the swimming pool, it's highly likely that somewhere on the wall there's going to be a pace clock. Now being familiar with how those work is, in my opinion, a really valuable skill, and it's a lot easier, trust me, than using the watch on your wrist. Now, whether you've gone down to the pool on your own and you've created your own session, which is based on your speeds for reps and turnaround times that you could do, or if you're in a group swim environment with a coach on pool deck leading it, being familiar and comfortable with that clock is going to make your life a lot simpler. So on that note, here's Heather explaining exactly how that clock works.
A pace clock can bring structure to a squad, making it easier for the coach to keep control of a large group of swimmers, especially if there's different abilities, as different lanes can be going off different turnaround times. But more on that in a moment. First, we need to address the standard lingo. Let's begin with the leaving time, and it makes sense to go on the 0, which in this case the coach would refer to as leaving on the top. It might be the quarter past, so coach probably say leaving on the 15, so when the hand reaches 15 seconds past. Another thing to note is the colour, because if you've got 4 hands, for example, you need to know which one it is. So in that case, they might refer to on the top or the red top, for example. That leads us on to the leaving gap, and it's quite self-explanatory. It's the time that you leave between each swimmer. So if, say, the coach says going on the top, you obviously can't all push off at once. You need to leave a uniform gap between each swimmer, and the coach should dictate whether that's going to be a 5-second or a 10-second gap. If you're in a 25-metre pool and there's 4 or more of you, you probably want to leave just 5 seconds, as with a 10-second gap, the lead swimmer is likely to be back and pushing off the wall before the first swimmer has even gone. Unless you're doing 50-metre reps, then it's a good idea to stick to the 5. And obviously the length of the pool can determine whether you want to go 5 or 10-second gaps. On the whole, if you're in a 50-metre pool, then it's nice to leave a 10-second gap so you don't catch or get in the way of each other.
Now, moving out into the open water, and although sighting is a skill that we as triathletes need for being in that environment, it is something that can be practiced in the pool just the same. Now, whether that is you thinking about your body alignment in the water, or perhaps your head position too, here is Mark and I talking through that for you now.
So what we're actually really trying to strive for is what I like to call crocodile eyes. So literally just bring our eyes out of the water, leaving our mouth in the water where possible. Obviously in chop, as we've got behind us now, it's not always that easy. Sometimes your mouth does come out of the water, as you'll probably see in some of the clips now, but we are always trying to strive for as minimal movement of the head as we can to disrupt the stroke as least as possible. So to do this, all we want to try and think of doing is when we're catching at the front of the stroke, we're applying pressure down on the water. And this is a real natural opportunity to, as we press, we lift our head ever so slightly out of the water. So just the eyes if we can, so really minimal movement. And then as that hand catches a little bit more and starts to pull into the stroke, this opportunity then to just breathe to side as you normally would. So it's not an additional movement within the stroke, and then we're into the recovery phase.
And another skill that serves very useful, not just in the open water, but in the swimming pool too, is the ability to breathe bilaterally or to both sides of our body. And I talk through the reasons for that in this piece here.
Another area that is less obvious is with our breathing. Now, given the nature of open water swimming and the fact that we've often got athletes around about us all the time, it is really useful to be able to breathe as easily as you can to both sides. Now, if we're in a pool environment like this, well, we generally refer to this as bilateral breathing, but if you do watch a triathlon swim stroke, you'll see that athlete very often repeatedly just breathing to the one side. And I was very guilty of this when I raced. I would generally always breathe to my right side. And this is something that athletes do predominantly because you could be swimming alongside another athlete to the side of you that you don't want to breathe to. But also, you might find that in an open water environment, you've got waves or chop coming in from one particular side. So you want to be able to breathe away from that too and cope with it. And finally, because it's the open water and outside, there might be glare coming off the sun.
Now, when we swim in the pool, in all likelihood, we're doing that in a pretty solitary fashion with not many other swimmers close to us. However, move over into the open water and we might be in a group swim training session or particularly in a race dynamic. That is all going to change drastically as it gets very busy in there. So there's 2 skills that you need to keep in mind for making that whole situation more comfortable. And the first of those is how to position yourself around others in a group. And the second is how to think about getting a draft from a faster swimmer. So to talk through those skills, here's some of our pointers for you now.
as we've mentioned racing, we probably should talk about positioning. And when it comes to an event, there's probably going to be lots of other people around you, and it can be slightly unnerving. So it's best not to position yourself right in the middle amongst everybody. If you are new or a little bit nervous with open water racing, then it's a good idea to head to the outside of the pack, or maybe hang towards the back where you're going to find some clearer water. But when it comes to really big events, even if you do make sure you space yourself nicely, you're probably still going to clash arms with somebody. But just remember that they're probably equally as nervous as you are, and they're not going to be doing it intentionally. So just try and stay calm and focus on your own race and concentrate on keeping your stroke nice and smooth.
Finally, drafting. Now, admittedly, this is a pretty advanced skill, but it may be something that you want to build up to or work towards as you build your confidence in the water. And it's pretty much like drafting on the bike, really. When we draft in the water, we sit directly behind someone or directly beside their hip, and we get a bit of a tow. So this could save ourselves energy when we're in the water, or alternatively, we can work at the same rate, latch onto a slightly faster swimmer and get around the swim a bit faster. Now, it can take a bit of time to master this skill, so we recommend just practicing with a training partner, getting closer and closer. When we're drafting on the feet, you want to almost be brushing their toes with your fingertips. When we're on the hip, your head should almost be around their pelvis or hip height. Basically, we're trying to surf their wake. And then in terms of how close we are to them, your arms should more or less be brushing their thigh as you pull through.
Right then, now whether you are going to be heading into the pool or venturing off into the open water for your upcoming swim workouts, I really suggest you think about some of these swim skills for getting the most quality out of your time in the water. And please do let me know which of these skills you find the most useful, or indeed if there are some others that you think about when you're swimming yourself. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video, so please hit that thumb up like button, and don't forget to follow us on our social media channels, and of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel.